Welcome. We're really excited to have you here and hope you benefit from the program. Quick announcements about some upcoming programs. We have our Mix and Mingle coming up on the 16th of the month. That's the opportunity for folks to get together with the board members and other volunteers and really learn about opportunities to be part of this organization. We also have an upcoming event in September that's going to be at the Museum of Flight that's pretty exciting. It's the Next Forum event all about space tourism, which is definitely an exciting topic right now. And then I'll have Kevin come up here and give an announcement as well.
Hi, I'm Kevin Oyang, and I'm on the board here at the MIT Enterprise Forum. I'm also working with Social Innovation Fast Pitch. And this is an entrepreneurial competition sponsored by Social Venture Partners. Applications now are open. We award $238,000 in grant and seed money to for-profits and nonprofit companies, and you get to pitch before an audience of 1,000 people. Last year, Nathan Myhrvold was our keynote speaker. And if you're wondering, what does social innovation have to do with technology? A lot. Two of the guys here sitting today were SIFP applicants. They did a great job. You'll see they've come a long way since then. And the winners were in technology. The top prize winner got a $100,000 investment for a software as a service company. The second prize winner got a $50,000 investment for essentially Match.com for clinical trials. So technology is social. You just have to explain it to us in that way. I hope you all apply if you have a company or you know of someone that should apply. Social Innovation Fast Pitched, SIFP, SIFP.net. You can talk to me later if you're interested. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. So a little bit about the organization for those of you that are new. MIT Enterprise Forum is an entirely volunteer-run nonprofit organization. This chapter is one of 28 chapters worldwide, and our mission really is to inspire, to connect, and to educate entrepreneurs in the local area, in the business community and the technology community. So we can see how a lot of that happens, especially in a program like this, where we're really connecting startups and investors and other entrepreneurs that are looking to really engage and be part of something innovative. Tonight, we're going to be seeing 6 companies who have gone through our screening process, who are really bringing some of these innovative technologies to bear. And one of the themes that ran through everything that we saw tonight was similar to what Kevin was talking about, was really about connection. And whether that's connecting people on a team, connecting you with something that you're really passionate about, connecting you with other people that you work around, or that in some way you can have a connection with an environment that you're in for entertainment or for business. There'll be a lot of good things in keeping with that theme. The format tonight, you'll see each presenter for 8 minutes as they do their demo. After that 8-minute demo, we'll have a 5-minute Q&A with our judges. But be thinking about your own questions, because once we're done seeing all of the demos, there'll be an audience Q&A while the judges deliberate on the winner. And that'll be your chance to ask questions of all of our presenters tonight. Another key thing that we want to remember is that if you want to get involved in this, not only think about what you want to come up and present the next time that we do this, but get involved through Twitter. We have in your brochure, you'll see our Twitter hashtag, which is MITEFNW. There's also Twitter handles for each of our presenters tonight, so feel free to send your feedback and make some great comments and help really add to everybody's networks. This is all about the exposure that we can help these startups get. Now, before we get started, let's introduce our judges who will be helping us out with some great questions tonight.
Great, thank you. Happy to be here tonight. My name is Rebecca Lovell. I am the CEO of Vitana. Love to hear from Kevin about what's going on in social innovation, because that's exactly what we're doing. We are a nonprofit student micro-lending organization that is dedicated to ending youth poverty. We've helped over 10,000 students around the world in developing countries remove that last obstacle between themselves and leaving poverty behind, which is education. The reason why I'm here, though, more directly, is that I am hopelessly devoted to startups. I have had the distinct pleasure of coaching, screening, and interviewing hundreds and hundreds of startups back when I was director of the Alliance of Angels, then moving on to the Northwest Entrepreneur Network. I also teach a class on venture capital investing in the MBA program at the University of Washington. I am a mentor for Techstars, 9 Mile Labs, and Founder Institute, and just decide that I will sleep when I am dead. I couldn't be happier to be here tonight and to be in your company along with all these great judges. Thanks again for having me.
Great. Hi, I'm Kelly Siegel, and I am with a company called PitchBook Data. We're a research firm that tracks venture capital and private equity related data. But really why I'm here is I'm pitch hitting for Gary Rittner, who is with Puget Sound Venture Club, and I am a staff member there as well. So we screen companies once a month, and companies that are out looking for early stage seed money or small Series A rounds. And we screen them, we bring them in, they pitch, and then the ones that move on come and do our monthly luncheon. And I'm part of the committee that does the screening for the deal flow. So happy to be with you guys tonight, and I'll pass the mic along.
Hi, Blair Dudley, Seattle Times. I'm a tech columnist there. We're a quasi-nonprofit media organization. I'm glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Alan Blickenstaff with the Alliance of Angels. Our group is a member organization of angel investors that's been around since about 1997, and over that time we've invested in about 200 companies. So one of the larger and more active networks in the Northwest here, investing locally. And on top of that, I've helped with the Social Innovation Fast Pitch the last couple of years, and I'm currently an MBA student serving on a fellowship in the entrepreneurship community.
Hi, my name is Villette Nolan. I am a technology executive. I've been in tech since 1980. I've been CEO of a SaaS software company, one of the first. I started my own firm, which officially made me an entrepreneur. I've also been an investor over the years, and many times in very, very early stage companies. I'm here tonight on behalf of Seraph Capital Forum, which is the first all-female investment group formed in the entire United States, and I believe the world. And I've been a judge at many business plan competitions and helped get demos started years ago together with Hannah. I used to be the president and chair of the MIT Enterprise Forum a long time ago.
All right, thanks, judges, and welcome. We're glad to have you all here. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors who have made a lot of this possible. FLH, who you will see several folks around, and also R2 Integrated, who are here tweeting up a storm tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up our first presenter.
So my name is Gary Beyer. I'm CEO, and this is Dave Ferguson, CTO and founder of Gibran Inc. Kirkland-based Gibran is a viral communications technology that enables people to easily broadcast spoken messages to and converse with a large or distributed audience anywhere on Earth, all at the same time and with the technology they already have. So Gibran spreads naturally between family and friends, but it's designed for team interaction and to simplify group management. So examples of groups that we would be targeting would be sales and project teams, consultants, political and membership organizations, and celebrities of all kinds.
So Gibran addresses one of the biggest problems with motivational communications today, and that is the need to engage an audience, be they large or small, separated by time or distance, and motivate them or inspire them to action. We would like for you to consider as an example tonight the plight of a candidate for office and his campaign staff. Imagine, if you will, that Gary is a campaign manager and I'm on the staff for him.
So we're going to role play just a little bit to give you the idea. So Dave, we need a new outreach approach for the Webster campaign. How can we better get his message out and help to differentiate him from his political opponents?
Glad you asked, Gary. Actually, this morning I was evaluating a new technology called Gibran, and I think it will be great for Carl Webster, who is our campaign, our candidate for office. I forgot to introduce. Carl will be able to send spoken messages to his campaign staff and his supporters very easily, and the best thing about it is those people don't need to have a Gibran account to receive the message. It can be sent to an email address, to an SMS phone number, even shared as a link on a website or a social media network.
All right, so Webster can then record a message. He can deliver the message to his entire team via multiple channels simultaneously, and use the passion and emotion in his voice that he's so well noted for. He lives by his voice. He could do that in his sleep, and he speaks a lot better than he types. So why don't you show me how it works?
Absolutely. So I set an account up with Anne earlier today, and we were testing this a little bit. She already has the free app on her iPhone, so we can quickly send from my iPad here a Gibber to her as an example. Let me bring up the app for you. And if I wanted to send Gibber, oh, I lost my video there. Sorry, wires everywhere. If I wanted, so when I launched the app, I'm immediately brought into a contact list, and I can very quickly and easily tap Anne's contact at the top here. And if I wanted to, it's automatically addressed to Anne. Very small, sorry everybody. And at the top, I could also add, if we wanted to, your email address here, so that this message will go to both you and Ann. Ann will receive it in Gibran, you'll receive it in email. If I want to, I can type a subject in the second line there. I won't this time, it'll put a timestamp in automatically. And then all I have to do is tap the button and start speaking. Say, hi Ann, just doing a quick demo for Gary here. Hope it's going well for you today. And when I hit send, off it goes. Now, Ann, who's actually in the audience and should get this briefly, will receive that gibber in the app, and it will look similar to what we're looking at here. This is sort of your inbox, if you will, of gibbers. Again, very simple interface, and when she gets it, she'll hear something along the lines of, I'll play you. So she's received the message already. She can quickly reply to me. While she's doing that, I'll come back and play it for you. And if I had wanted to add somebody else, such as yourself, as a contact, oh, here it comes. I'm going to show, here we go. He's doing that. I will.
Love it. Let me know how I help with this campaign.
So very simple, quick, easy, and you're communicating with anybody you like.
If you want to add a contact?
If you want to add it, yeah, you can add a contact to the list very easily by tapping the little blue plus in the top left corner. I'm sorry, I can't zoom this for you guys. And put in the necessary information, including an email address, SMS phone number, or Gibran account if you wish. And as soon as you submit that, it will be added to your list. And again, one-touch communication with anybody you like.
So one-to-one communication is pretty straightforward, but how about communicating with an entire campaign team?
Excellent question. So let me take you to an account we set up for Carl earlier today. I will do this, though, through the web app, and I'll show you how we would set up a group contact. Now, I'll just sign Webster in here quickly. Please don't remember this very complicated password. There we go. Now, immediately we're brought into Webster's dashboard, where he can see existing gibbers in his account, as well as most frequently used contacts. But if I wanted to create or use a group contact, I tap on the contact shortcut, which is on the menu bar there, and you'll see on the top two of these contacts are campaign staff and campaign supporters. These two here. We'll take a quick look at the campaign staff group contact. You can assign an image to it, and of course a friendly name for management in your contact list. There are a few more settings here around permissions for use of this particular group. You can allow other people to send to it if you wish. But most importantly, down here at the bottom, it's very easy to import contacts with the import from a file feature, or you can type them in directly into this field. Once you have that group contact, it's simply a one entry in the recipients of a gibber, and you're communicating with one to thousands.
So a key point here is a Gibran group can contain Gibran users, but also non-users, email addresses, text messages. That supports the viral nature of the product. And he could use that then to message his entire political base, including top donors then.
Absolutely, and whoever he likes, anybody with an email address or an account in Gibran or their text phone number. And the most important thing to us is that we get metrics around who's heard those messages, so we can evaluate the outreach.
Good. Well, I think you're really onto something here. How would I get set up then on my iPad?
Great question. The easiest way is to go out to Gibran.com. I'm still zoomed here. In the top right corner, hard to see here, but there's a sign up link there, or if you prefer, there's a register now link at the bottom left corner. And go follow those and create your account, or you can also go to the App Store and download the free app for your iPhone, iPod, or iPad.
Well, that's great. So we're just going to wrap up now. I think we're well within our time period. The key here is that Gibran is designed to give voice to group management, to simplify team interaction, and it's free for use for personal and family. So we hope that you'll all start gibbering tonight. And that's it. So I guess, do we entertain questions? Yeah. Okay.
Impressive demo. Question for you on the dashboard, because I can see lots of interesting business applications you already, or scenarios. You already described one really well. But the interface with the dashboard looked like it was almost more for an individual. Is there a management level? So if in fact you were the CEO at IBM and you had 5,000 salespeople and you're sending out a message, what does that look like?
A great question, and what I would say is we have those plans in the works. This is actually very early, especially the web app. That's really only come out in the last couple of weeks. There's a lot more we want to do here, and we're certainly thinking about corporate accounts and how we manage those.
And if I could just add a comment, we do have some business users. We have an author, for example, that regularly gibbers several hundred of her, she's a commercial published author, and gibbers her readers with inspirational thoughts that occur. And when she suddenly doesn't gibber for some reason, people start complaining, what happened, I'm not hearing from you anymore. So, but she's created essentially one group that has all of her readers, and then just simply from an iPhone will record whatever she wants to that group, and it goes out immediately to everybody.
Great. I was curious actually how you handle all of the data in archiving all of this, these voice recordings. Is it similar to voicemail, or is it some different technology?
It's actually, I would say the closest analogy is email. It's a store and forward technology. We have a central server. The audio data is posted to the server. We do cache it locally if you don't have a network, but as soon as you have that connection to the internet, we'll cache it up on the server and then forward it. But the key point there is the gibber is available not just to the recipient, but if they want to take a link to that and post it in their Facebook stream or tweet it to somebody, that gibber then is available if it's public. It's available to people beyond the recipient. So we do want to keep that on the server and make it available that way.
If I could have one additional thought, we also do threading and hierarchy of messages. So if you've got a sales team and there's a conversation about a Rolls-Royce account going on, and now a new person's added to the team, they immediately can go back up and hear some of that exchange, the chatter around the account, if you will, because of that. And some of that's patent pending for us.
I'm curious to know whether there are any security or manageability features in here that differentiate this from, off-the-shelf messaging and distribution systems.
Not yet. There will be. There will be.
Yeah, I guess I feel like some of my questions got taken. But I guess to piggyback a little bit off of Valette, same idea is just it seems like this is both kind of a social media platform in kind of a Twitter type of way where you can communicate with the masses, but also, how can you customize this based on whether you're an individual? Do individuals get to customize their own accounts so that the skins look different down the line? I mean, I think that definitely being able to differentiate between an individual user, somebody that's using this for kind of fun or social activity, as opposed to a large corporate account and how they're using it.
I'll show the contact list icon, little logos on the contact list, the faces and so on.
Well, I probably don't have time for that right now. I would say, you're right. And we do, part of the problem we have with this idea is that it applies to so many scenarios. And yes, there is a consumer level sort of social network component to it, which is harder to monetize. And then there's the business application, which is mass outreach metrics, sort of the constant contact model, if you will. It's a platform, and there are many ways we can employ it. We're choosing to pursue the business sort of take that approach first. But there are lots of things we can do and will do. And we'll also expose an API so that creative third parties can leverage the platform but do interesting things on the front end.
Great job, and it is tough to back clean up, of course, but so I'll just end kind of with a comment, I guess. So I think we listen better to a pitch when we understand exactly who you are, what you do for whom, even before we get into the use case scenario. So I love the role play and really having an understanding of how this would work kind of, in real life. But I think that there's a danger, especially when you're talking about campaigns, kind of to Kelly's point, that we're so anchored in, they're talking about a social media campaign. I think we'll listen differently, listen more attentively right out of the gates if we understand that this is one-touch voice communications, because I think that's really the secret sauce. We have so many levers we can pull in the world of social media that what you bring to the party is the forgotten art of voice-to-voice communication. So anyway, great job. I'll just close with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Give up my video to the next guy here.
Excellent. Well, thank you. It's always interesting to see things that have really practical application, especially when it comes to that ambiguous world of what's the inflection in that email and how can you tell if somebody's being sarcastic? So that's very nice. All right, so up to our next one, let's bring up SwiftGist. Come on up and get plugged in.
So my name's Leon Wong, and I'm one of the co-founders of SwiftGist. And so what is SwiftGist? SwiftGist is a new kind of web analytics tool. What we do is we build a statistical model of your typical website traffic. And then what we do is we monitor your actual website traffic, and we alert you to any important shifts in user activity patterns. So why is this important? Well, we're living in a world where, a single tweet can move financial markets. And the pace of user interest changes, the pace of website content changes is just getting faster and faster. So, imagine if you're like an e-commerce vendor and all of a sudden you notice that the Microsoft Surface tablet is suddenly selling really well. Surprising, right? And let's say you notice that, Oprah tweeted that she loves her Surface. Well, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take that insight and change your homepage and feature that product prominently. And then 2 hours later, when you realize and everyone else realizes that she tweeted that from her iPad, maybe you're going to want to take that down just as quickly. So, that's just a funny example, but and you might think this is kind of a rare occurrence, but if you're running a business like Daily Deals, if you're doing something like, if you're running a business like Twitter or something that's truly real time, this is your everyday life. This isn't some sort of exceptional case. So let's just get right into the demo. So the demo I'm going to show you is actually, because this is a website analytics tool, we went and found a publicly available data set. So we're going to look at NASA data from 1995. And it's interesting because it's long enough ago that nobody remembers what happened in 1995, much less on the web back then. But again, it's a public data set that has some interesting insights that we can discover using the SwiftGist tool. So I'll walk you through how it works. So what you see here is the SwiftGist dashboard, and it's blank for a reason. We don't want you staring at dashboards. We think the tools should tell you exactly when interesting things are happening and not waste your time when interesting things aren't happening. So it's blank to start with, and this is the morning of July 10th on 1995 at 5 a.m. So let's see what happens when time moves forward. I'm going to advance us a little bit. And what you see is one of our alert tiles popping. And then if you advance time a little bit more, you see a few more alert tiles popping. And so what are on these alert tiles? I'll kind of interpret the arcane URLs for you a little bit. But what you're seeing is traffic spiking on Shuttle Mission 70. You're also seeing images and movies from that same shuttle mission, and you're seeing a countdown timer clock. So pretty easy to interpret. There's a shuttle launch coming, right? So that might seem kind of like a simple insight to mine out of this data, but there's actually 20,000 URLs in this data. The other thing that's kind of interesting is this is actually 3 days before the actual shuttle launch. So we're getting a really early warning signal that people are starting to get interest in this upcoming shuttle launch. So let's just fast forward a little bit to the actual shuttle launch. So notice the numbers here are actually kind of small. That would probably be your first tip-off that this is not the actual launch. So if we fast forward to the actual shuttle launch, so now you start to see some really big numbers moving, thousands of hits. And just to explain what you're seeing in this dashboard, the blue line represents your actual traffic, the gray line represents our prediction, and then the yellow shaded areas are automatically highlighted for you using our pattern recognition algorithms. So, again, what would you have to do to detect these kinds of things? Well, your typical startup out there will probably start by, once you get a little bit of traffic, you buy a big TV. And you pick your 5 or 10 metrics that you want to show on that TV. And you're going to put it somewhere prominent in the hopes that if something's going wrong or there's a big opportunity coming your way, that someone will just walk by it and notice it. That's kind of wishful thinking. And guess what? You're going to miss a lot of stuff. People get used to the TV being there. They stop looking at what's on that TV. The other thing is you can only pick 5 or 10 metrics to put there. So, you might just miss some really interesting behavior, like the Microsoft Surface tablet selling at 10 times the rate it used to, just because it didn't impact your overall sales. So what do you do if you get a little bit more serious? Well, once you start getting to be like a solid mid-sized company, then you start having like the Monday morning sales meeting, right? You have people hand out handouts. There's a spreadsheet of your sales broken down by like maybe geography, product category, and you go and look through it to try and find any anomalies that you want to talk about. Again, it's one step better, but you're wasting a lot of people's time on a regular basis trying to look for anomalies that really the computer tools should be trying to find for you. So we think this is a much better solution, right? We have a model of what's normal, and we go in and try and find what's abnormal and show that to you. So, and here in the case of the NASA data, we have website traffic figures, but we can do this for any kind of business metrics that you have. So, whether it's ad clicks, ad revenue, sales data. The key thing is, as long as we can model user behavior and tie that user behavior to the overall business metric, then we can predict how that business metric will move under different user traffic patterns. So one of the common things that happens is a business metric moves, and you want to know, well, why did it move? You want to get some insight. So here, notice one of the things that popped up on this alert dashboard is total traffic. And this is for the NASA demo, this is our proxy for a business metric. So if you're the CEO of this corporation or the director of NASA, maybe you're only subscribed to sort of the high level metrics. So what you can do is you can click into that and try and find out what happened there. So in this case, this is a historical view of all of our 2 months of data. And we can just highlight this area and get an automatic explanation, one-click explanation. Because we've modeled how user behavior leads to high-level movements in business metrics, we can see that this yellow line, which is the total traffic, is actually explained almost entirely by movements in these 5 individual URLs. So shuttle countdown liftoff, countdown timer clock, and the shuttle mission 71 images. So, what would you have to do if you didn't have this kind of technology? You'd probably ask your team of data scientists to go off, run a bunch of SQL queries, slicing and dicing your total traffic in a lot of different ways, in the hope that you'd find sort of the best explanation, right? And it's not entirely clear. All of your slicing and dicing will probably show some lifts, but only some of these will isolate the actual root cause. And so what happens is, sometimes you find that magic bullet, sometimes you don't, sometimes you just give up. And, again, you're really losing insights because of the manual effort involved. So one thing you probably noticed is in all my examples, there's a cluster of different pages that seem to spike whenever there's a shuttle launch. So it's an interesting insight. There are complex patterns in this data, and when you're doing complex page level analytics, you're going to see like multiple pages move when a particular user interest spikes. So what we did was we applied some clustering technology. And so, in this particular data set, we came up with the following clusters. And these were all generated automatically, and only the labels were supplied by hand. As you would expect, there's a bunch of stuff around the shuttle launch, but there's also clusters around Apollo 13, space history, and the Challenger disaster. And when you look at the time series around each of these clusters, you notice, as you would expect, some red spikes around shuttle launches. But you also notice some interesting stuff. The space history and the Challenger disaster have pretty regular week-over-week activity, but Apollo 13 actually has this interesting spike and then an overall decline over the time period. So that's curious, right? Apollo 13 is another one of these space history topics, but what you see here is a spike because the Apollo 13 movie came out that summer, released a little bit before the holiday weekend, had a big spike in interest over the holiday weekend, and then a decline after that. So just to wrap up really quickly, what I showed you is how SwiftGIS can do comprehensive monitoring of your website. We can give you high-quality alerts whenever user activity patterns shift. We can give you one-click explanations for movements in key business metrics. And then finally, we can give you clustered insights so that we can make complex patterns easier to understand and easier to detect. Thanks. So if you have If you think that you're missing some interesting insights in your websites, please come talk to us. Thank you.
All right, great, nice job. And I know there's a few panelists, at least one, who kind of lives or dies by site traffic. So I'm looking forward to Briar's questions here. But here's I think for me the fundamental question is, you mentioned that the labels are administered by hand. So there is, I think, that sort of fundamental garbage in, garbage out. So how sophisticated of a user do you have to be to tag those labels correctly so you're getting the right clusters of information? And how sophisticated do you have to be to actually interpret the data. I think Google Analytics does a lot of this, minus the alerts. So I'd love to hear just a little bit more about your secret sauce and ultimately who that user is within NASA. Like, who is that person, and how much do they have to know about patterns to sort of have that crystal ball and guess what the right labels are going to be?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I think there's a good amount of value you can get purely from the alerting capability. But in terms of the segmentation, I think like our ambition is not to completely automate this process, but rather, if you're somebody whose job it would have been to look for these kinds of patterns, to make it easier by giving you the most plausible hypotheses first, and saving you from having to do a lot of work slogging through slicing and dicing that wouldn't produce any insight. So we think of it more like, Google doesn't give you the document that's going to satisfy your query. It gives you a ranked list that saves you from having to search the entire web. But more to your point in terms of your specific question, here are the actual URLs that popped up. In the particular NASA case, like every website is going to have sort of different levels of complexity around how hard that problem is, depending on, like sometimes there are really strong pockets of user interest that are easier to identify. Sometimes right? Sometimes it's harder, sometimes it's easier. But in the case of the NASA data, it's actually fairly clear looking at the URLs. You'll see like these are the actual top URLs in each cluster, and you actually see like Apollo 13 coming up in every single, pretty much every single URL there. So, unfortunately, the answer is it depends, and the secret sauce is. There is no answer to that, right? There's always going to be some level of human interpretation there, but at least we can point you to what sets of pages tend to alert at the same time, and give you the top candidates. And we think that if you're doing page-level analytics today, this is one step better than that. So I think it's a step in the right direction. It's not a complete solution.
Just a quick question from me, and this is pretty simple, but just what's the search capabilities on the platform? So if you have specific searches that you want to run while you're on there to look at particular trends related to an event, I mean, how in depth can you search specifically what you want to be looking at?
Okay, so you're talking about search through the space of analytics as opposed to analytics for search?
Correct. Yeah, like when you're on the, I'm assuming it's a web-based platform, right? So when you're on there and I'm the user and I'm in there and I'm looking at traffic going through my website and where it's coming from, are there different kind of metrics that I can actually enter into a search key somewhere?
Right. So what we've implemented. So I'll tell you about sort of what we've implemented in the demo first, because that's most concrete. This is really more of a technology demo than a complete product. But we built a couple things. We certainly have the ability to enter in like individual URLs. So that's sort of what our search box actually does. But one thing we found really interesting is we have this history analysis tool. So once you have like a lot of alert history. We actually have this timeline here where you can, so what you're seeing here is like a map of all the alerts that are popping up, and you can just scrub back and forth in time to see like alerts that show up at different times. So you can actually just kind of scan around for interesting time periods and that sort of thing. And in terms of like the specific metrics, that's sort of a world of things where like, it really depends on like if you have 5 metrics, we'll just give you a browse functionality, right? Like, so yeah, it's definitely sort of really going to depend on which clients we can sign first and their specific
I'm sure
needs.
you'll get lots of feedback once you have people on there too, right?
Exactly, yeah. Thanks.
Just my general feedback would be just some space around the competition and how you fit into the range of things from Google Analytics up to Omniture. It would be kind of interesting to know that from the get-go. As as Rebecca mentioned, we use a lot of tools like this in the media business nowadays, so we're pretty familiar with things like that. But so then, the pattern stuff is a different thing, I guess, and maybe you could emphasize that a little bit. And I'm also curious to know whether your pattern recognition and things like that would plug into existing tools that people have, or if they would just use this as a standalone application.
Yeah, there's actually a challenge with integration because most of the tools out there don't do user level, like don't let you trace sort of user level activity. And so we actually build a model up from, we actually predict for each individual user and their specific features, given a page that they're on, what page they go to next, and then use that to build up all the higher level predictions. Whereas if you use something like Google Analytics, you really lose all that in the aggregation that they do immediately. So it's actually tough to integrate with tools that are already out there. In terms of like the big differences between sort of standard analytics tools, the biggest difference is we're actually predicting your typical traffic patterns and then comparing actual versus predicted. So rather than giving reports that slice and dice, that's how we're able to find what's interesting, is because we have a notion of what's going to happen, and it's only sort of those differences that we're pulling out and showing to you. And then the clustering is also a little bit different too.
So I kind of have 3 questions. A simple one. You mentioned the yellow shaded area on a graph, and then you never really described what it is or why it gets yellow shaded.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So what it is it's basically, your graphs are always, what actually happens is always going to be a little bit different from what you predicted. We shade it yellow when there's actually a statistically significant difference.
Okay.
So that it's
Something
not just
happened
by
in the
chance.
yellow
And-
area.
Exactly.
Got it.
And it's not just the threshold. We actually look at like sort of a slight lift over a long period of time is going to be just as unlikely as a sharp spike for a short period of time. So we're smart about those kinds of things.
So then the other questions I've got, something that Breyer brought up, which I'm not sure what your answer exactly was, but it seems to me like you've built some really interesting capabilities. But your go-to-market strategy is going to be difficult because you are working in a very established market. And I mean, I've used a lot of Google products and other products as well. So is it possible for you as a go-to-market strategy to license this technology to an established company, or is that what you were saying was that integration would be too difficult?
I mean, honestly, at this stage, we're looking at, whether partnerships are a better way to go to market because, for example, some of this technology may be most useful to the largest companies that have the most traffic and the most to gain from real-time kind of alerting and small sort of fluctuations in their traffic. So, it might make sense for a small company to partner, I think we're exploring all those possibilities right now. The other thing that we're looking at is really sort of vertical segmentation, like finding which are the verticals that really need this the most and building a lot more layers on top to make sure that this is more than just like an interesting piece of generic technology, but like an actual end-to-end solution. So we're looking at everything from marketing automation to really trying to understand how your mobile traffic behaves differently from your desktop web traffic to help you kind of go mobile. So a lot of different scenarios that we're looking at. And
Then my third, it's more of a comment than a question, but I had a company for about 6 years that was very, very dependent on web traffic for its success, and in addition to that, though, we would notice that there would be external events, which is something you brought up very clearly, like the Apollo 13 movie getting released at the same time that people are searching on the launch. So whether it's a feature or something that you could establish or link into the software, it would be really helpful for the business executive to be able to track external events that are not web. You're not going to find them on the web. You won't find that information on a URL in any way. But let's just say you ran a television campaign, that ad campaign drove traffic through the roof, or there was a particular, so there must, it would be helpful, I think, for a team to be able to input external data that would then compare with the rest of this. And maybe you've already built that in.
We haven't built that yet, but we have looked at the scenario of referral traffic and organic search traffic and modeling that as a traffic source and being able to detect spikes in that. The other thing we've been talking to folks about is integrating with CRM data so that you have more features with which to predict user behavior, so that this traffic spike is not because people are doing a particular activity more often. It's just you're getting more users of a particular type, right? You're getting more, as you're in business longer, you're getting more and more repeat visitors, and that's really what's driving things, as opposed to any fundamental user activity shift. So that's definitely something we've looked at. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Leon. And here's hoping for a lot of yellow shaded areas for all of our speakers tonight after they get great demo referrals. So up next is Mark from Moving Worlds.
So I'm gonna start with a picture. My name is Mark Horshowski. I'm one of the co-founders of Moving Worlds. We're a for-profit social impact company here in Seattle that helps people find the best place around the world where they can volunteer their expertise. About 2 years ago, I left a successful marketing agency that I'd founded here in Seattle to go do the same. What I found is that was really, really difficult, primarily because the only opportunities I could find were charging me about $2,500 per week to volunteer, and it was primarily doing manual skills. So for people like you with brains and intellectual horsepower, to find a place where you can volunteer your expertise, there's no network to connect. But there's about 3 million people every year that are searching to go do this and don't, because it's either too expensive or because it's not using your intellectual horsepower to help make a difference. And so we set out to change that with Moving Worlds. And the way that Moving Worlds works is, you can think of it like a Peace Corps crossed with Match.com, where people come to our platform, they request an invite, they create a profile, we surface opportunities around the world where they can donate their expertise, usually in exchange for something like free accommodations, language lessons, if nothing else, a life-enriching experience. And then at the end, they actually get to go and make an impact. So the way that it works is you'd come in here and you would request an invite. Enter valid email. So it won't let you cheat, and I'm the first contestant with a bug. On our homepage load, this map should be like a nice little interactive piece, so you can bounce around and you can kind of find cool opportunities or cool people around the world. To go through the sign-up process, which is a 4-step process, and the way that we actually subsist as an organization, is you come to, on the last process, a payment page. So in order to get a match, it's $99. At $199, we throw in travel insurance and some extra coaching. And at $699, we connect you to a travel agent. They take care of all your on-the-ground travel arrangements plus extra. And the reason that we actually settled on this is because there's more people that want to go. They were going like around our fake website, our fake landing page, and they were offering to pay us money in order to go to get connected to organizations around the world. And what we found, and we placed about 15 people already. Just today, a lady came to us from here in Seattle to say, hey, I'm going to Jordan, and I'm a female, and I want to help female entrepreneurs. And it took us just 6 hours going through the database, time difference included, to connect her to a startup accelerator in the West Bank where she can donate her expertise to support specifically female entrepreneurs. And that was a service that she was willing to pay for right away, because you just can't get that type of matching without this. Once you log in, and we do have a connect with LinkedIn feature. But if you log in, you can see I've cheated myself. I haven't paid for us yet, so it's telling me to pay. Our recommendations engine, we have a recommendations engine. In absence of a recommendation engine, I really like marketing, so then you can do a browse for opportunities. Here, EcoFarms is one of our opportunities, one of our organizations in Panama. We just placed an architect here who's doing sustainable development of a research facility to explore how agriculture can live in harmony with the rainforest in Panama, which is rapidly getting cut down. So you can learn more about the opportunity. And then here I'm going to time out for a second, and I'm going to switch over to how it works for organizations. So organizations, very similar. They get free expert support for any business challenge. They're able to log in and create a profiles, also with LinkedIn if they want. This is another one of our partners in Brazil. They support high-impact entrepreneurs. If any software engineers want to actually go get $400 a week to help cover travel and living expenses in Rio, Endeavor Brazil would love to have you go visit. This is live as of Friday. So you can come and you can list new opportunities to explain what type of person you're looking for, what are the results of the project, what languages do they need, and then if you're providing them any compensation, whether it's just travel or accommodations, or if you don't have anything, which we totally understand, that's fine to post too. So I'll toggle back to the person looking for, so this is me looking to go somewhere. If I'm interested, I hit request intro. The way that this works now is that it says, hey, we'll be in touch with you soon. This actually comes to us, and then we validate to make sure that you actually have the skills that's required for this organization. One of the big struggles in volunteering overseas is that the right skills actually have to get to the right organization. So totally off the technology, we're working with organizations to help them dilute their wishes into specific tasks, and then as people apply, we do a quick screen, and then we introduce them. And everything I've explained so far is actually what I think is the easy part, right? There's organizations that are pounding on our doors for expertise. According to the World Economic Forum, behind access to talent or to capital, access to talent is the leading barrier to progress. So on one side, we have 3 million people that are actively looking to donate their skills overseas. And on the other side, we have over 1 million organizations that can't find access to expertise that they need in order to grow. And so for us, in order to make an impact, we have to ensure that we have a strong match. And the way that we do that is what we call our mutual engagement agreement. It's a 9-step process that starts with have a conversation. Can you communicate? Can you communicate clearly? It's the basis of every relationship, all kinds of relationships. It starts there. And then it goes through to articulate what are the working conditions like, what does success look like. This essentially creates a statement of work, and at the bottom, they check boxes to say that they've done their own due diligence and they accept any risks that come with traveling overseas. And I actually want to step away again, kind of from the technology. And I think that one thing that we found really quickly just in placing, we started to place people just in December. We're already getting people coming back, telling their stories, referring their friends. It's an interesting business because we're reliant on technology to scale what has been a manual process so far. And what we're finding is that the value, again, of the technology is not just the technology. It's what's that technology can do. And we're hoping that in 5 years, we'll be responsible for nearly $1 billion worth of professional services being donated overseas. And it's because of people taking the time, understanding that the talent, expertise, and experience that they've had can make a massive impact to accelerate social progress at home and abroad. Thank you.
All right.
You skipped last round.
All right. I got a couple of questions for you about the actual matching. I'm curious what you kind of see the threshold of number of people wanting to be matched and number of organizations that there need to be in there to really have that matching algorithm take off.
Right. So one of the features that I didn't show is that as an organization, you can add multiple opportunities. So we've already have a few of the organizations that are coming in adding multiple opportunities, so that helps. For us, because of kind of different timeframes that people have, we feel that there's this kind of magic point at like 1,000, right? So 1,000 different organizations on the platform. For us, we think we're responsible for over 3,000 matches per year. And then that's when things kind of start to grow and scale a bit faster.
And then the follow-up to that was, since this might be something that you really only do once or maybe twice as an individual, how are you interpreting that feedback back into the system to make better matches?
Right. So things that the platform can't do yet, which I wish they could, is there's actually one of our first matches was a virtual match, right? And so for our people that are coming back, they're already trying to figure out what can I do to continue to give back. So there's a virtual component. The other big one is kind of coaching other expertise. I want to share what I've done and what I've accomplished. So a storytelling component will be Bing. The other big piece is how we're going to build in, which I'm going to be honest, we don't have an answer for yet, which is how do you use kind of social proof to help measure and rate the different opportunities and profiles, right? So I went to this organization, it was awesome, or it wasn't, here's why. And that's why we're finding that we do actually need to kind of manage and do some curation in the back.
I've got two questions. How does this compare? Well, let me ask the other one first. You described a fairly manual process in vetting the volunteer.
Yes.
What are your plans for making that more scalable?
Right. So And the vetting of the volunteer is actually pretty light when it comes into practice, right? By virtue of them signing up, we've seen their profile, they've paid, so we have access to the fact that they have a real address and real payment account, and then we have some other type of social media proof. What we do now is just make sure, because we're still learning so much, we just make sure that their skills align to the organization. We're hoping to not have to do that once we get to more matches. The other, which I think is part 2 of that, is just by making all the information public and the education that we're doing with the organizations, which is to say, there's a little bit of handholding now because we're a startup and we're learning fast, right? But that's going away. The opportunity, this is really, the onus is on you in order to make sure that the connection's valuable.
Do you know how this compares with Bankers Without Borders?
Absolutely. So, and there's MBAs Without Borders, Engineers Without Borders. A lot of the insight actually came back to us from them saying, it's only on a set time frame. I can't go on my own schedule. I can't do any virtual work, or it's just too expensive, right? And so that's really the big separation. I'd say the other piece for us, which has also been, especially in kind of our sabbatical ready audience, which is one of our biggest buckets, is a lot of the Without Borders program only work with NGOs. And we're also really tapping into social enterprise communities as well as startups.
So I don't have so much of a question, just a comment for you, is that I really, really enjoyed your presentation. And I think that, when companies are up here pitching and you just did every question that I had, I feel like you were able to tap into during your actual demonstration. You talked about who you were, you talked about the need, you talked about how you're going to solve the problem, you talked about from the kind of person giving their services, their expertise as a volunteer, then you jumped into the organizational piece. So I really think you did a great job in the presentation itself, and you made me excited about your product, which is always huge too, right? You can tell that you're passionate about it. So I think that's fantastic. That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. No, I agree with Kelly that this is an incredibly compelling opportunity. There are some major trends around voluntourism or experteering are some of the terms that I hear in our industry here. So nice work. I think that I'm just going to kind of echo some of the questions, particularly that Alan had around scalability. So you've got the challenge of the two-sided market, and we're hearing about this sort of 3-to-1 magical ratio between organizations and the number of volunteers. I was a little worried, frankly, to hear that it did take you 6 hours to find that wonderful match for the Jordanian opportunity that you described. And so I'd love to see you sort of solving that cold start problem by seeding your site with, 1,000 of those opportunities already. So as a new volunteerist or expertier, I increase the likelihood of finding an opportunity that resonates with me and offers the flexibility that you promise as part of your value proposition. So just again, a quick comment, but nice work.
Can I address this?
Please do.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
And there's two, and this, the first one, the first one I love. We came up with experteering, and we have a trademark.
That was you?
Yes. So
nice work. It's catching on.
All right. Perfect. And then the second one around kind of the preceding and the matching. It took us 6 hours to find that match with no technology, right? That's like our manual and our own database, right? And so I think where we are at right now is we're preparing for launch end of this month, right? Right. So is finding those organizations, right? And we'll be launching with about 100. We're on pace for over 150 different opportunities. So when we do launch, you're right. I mean, that's like our marketing gold right there. Cool. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, up next we have Kieran from Ghidra, who's going to come and give us a presentation.
Hi all, my name is Kieran Gaffey. I'm co-founder of Ghidra. Ghidra makes construction apps that help to automate tasks that are daily efforts undertaken by construction managers and construction engineers. These folks take photographs every single day to convey site conditions to off-site stakeholders and various consultants around the world, in town, remotely. How do we help? Well, when I say they take lots of photos, they take thousands of photos. On a commercial site, they take tens of thousands of photos. And what we do is we give them a way to capture background information for each of these photos, organize these photos for the whole team to get access of, and streamline email communications that use photos in them. So, our first app is designed specifically for the guys out there in the field. Now, keep in mind, these are construction folks. They're in the rain, the wind, the mud. There's cranes swinging around them. There's hazards everywhere. They're wearing bright yellow vests, hard hats, and unique to this trade, each and every one of them has in both hands 5 thumbs. We've got to accommodate those 5 thumbs. So the point of our app is to be as seamless and familiar to them as possible. So when we turn it on, if we turn on the right button, we have a camera. And this camera looks pretty much like any other camera app that you see on an iPhone. There's a difference. If I take the picture right now, yep, got you, Rebecca. That picture gets uploaded directly to the site, the project photo site, and I've just put these folks 100 miles ahead of where they were before. Before, that photograph was going to be lost on some project engineer's camera and be absolutely wasted value. There's more, though. Lots of people can do that. What we also have added is some really interesting things when you touch the screen. The real basic level, we give you construction-specific tags that you can augment the critical photos with as much detail or as little detail as you want. And you'll notice as we swing around, we've grabbed, if you look at the orientation field at the bottom, we've grabbed the camera, the compass that's inside the device, and use that as a unique tag too. Because whether you're facing northeast, southeast, or west, it becomes really, really important when you're trying to figure out one crack in the concrete from another. Here we can have a situation where we have dueling iPads in front of the photo. So you can take the photo, have it go straight up to the site, and add information later. You can take the photo, go into the browse function, and edit the information as needed. You can browse through your photos, see what's there, change, revise, whatever you need on your tags. You'll see there's a little button in the lower corner down here, not uploaded. That's a prompt. Gives you your chance to delete the photo because you don't like the smile on your face, upload this photo, upload all the photos. That's the key points right there. Now, the other thing we can do from here is we can email. We can email a critical photo. Now, this one's critical. We can email a critical photo to since I know I'm here, I'll just send it to me. And I'll remind me of the 3 great things. 3 great things that Ghidra does. And here's the 3 great things that Ghidra does. We capture that extra background information.
Give an extra space in your email.
Yeah. You see, I am a hard hat, 5-thumbed guy, which is why I know the burdens they operate underneath. I got 3 tickings here. So the 3 things are we capture the background information, organize the whole team, and we give you streamlined email communication. Let me show you how this email is going to show up. And believe it or not, this is a significant savings. For these folks on construction sites, this small email with the data that's embedded in the link, all on the right, and the photo thumbnail on the left, which is actually a link to the Giza server, allows you to pull it down, look at it full size, immediately, easily. The critical part here is right now, guys are spending hours and hours downloading photos onto their desktop, changing the file names to try and be ersatz tags, reducing the file size, and splitting up emails into a bunch of chunks so they don't get caught in somebody's server restraint. So what happens to these emails? Well, they go to a project site. And the project site, photo site, contains I do feel compelled to tell you right now that the CEO of the company is our presenter, but he had an accident 2 days ago, was in the hospital. So I was pressed into short duty, and I'm not adept at the speaking. I will join Toastmasters shortly afterwards.
You're doing great.
I'm sure he would have known to have all this stuff loaded in advance, but it's a live and learn for me. All right, so really briefly, the photos, where do the photos land from the field? They land here at the project site. The project site allows me to see all of my team's photos in one place. I get to utilize the functions within it: sorting, searching, filtering, editing, comments. I can share photos. I can export photos. I can pick a few photos that are obvious. You'll see that anything that's highlighted in the pictures is also highlighted in the data and vice versa. And visually, those two are connected. I'm an engineer. I like data. Architects, they like the pictures. Both functions have to work together seamlessly. You can select the photos for close-up detailed view. And we can even grab the coordinates, the GPS coordinates that are in the XFS files on the camera. And why is this important? This is important because this site isn't just a single project site. This can be a complete photo platform for a worldwide contractor. He can have all his projects on here at once. So in short, what we've done is we've grabbed photos that could have been lost. We've got them out of the field and into a usable format. We've given you a way to grab the background information, usable data for the whole project team, and streamlined email communications using photos. And we did it for all your active projects with no cost. That's Ghidra mobile app. Thanks.
Is this on? Oh. You showed a really cool screen a minute ago with the tile view of the photos, as well as some the grid information down at the bottom.
Yep.
So how customizable are those labels and the actual tags on the photos? Because
it depends field by field. Some of them are highly customizable. Some of them can be pre-entered by a project administrator, so that we limit the ways that you say gypsum, drywall, sheetrock. We only want to use one phrase for continuity's sake. Most of those end up being accumulative drop-down boxes. One entry then becomes part of this set.
Yeah, I'm curious if you could talk a minute about kind of the direction that you're going to take the product.
Sure.
What are the next features you're really wanting to implement?
Sure. So first of all, while this looks like there's not a lot of gee whiz gizmos on here, that's on purpose. Because I've worked this world all my life, and I've seen lots of really cool three-dimensional photographs that we can take if we set our cameras here, if we stage a marker here. Even stitching techniques, they don't work out there. That's not how it happens. What happens is, and what I hope to do is grab all the free radical photos that are out there on 100 different people's cameras and utilize this huge, vast database or data source and turn it into something meaningful. So number one is get what's there and turn it into something. And then we do have a lot of follow-on ideas that do incorporate more technology as we go along.
I'm curious to know too if you can edit things like the date the picture was taken in case the stuff is used in a
No.
lawsuit or something like that.
No, not only that, you have one shot to take this picture off. Before you upload it, it says you can delete it. Once it's up, then you can hide it from the database, but you can't delete it because chain of custody, questions about legal fraud and legal representations.
It seems like there's a big opportunity for legal defense and insurance defense and stuff like that with
Yeah.
this kind of stuff too.
Yeah, just one other point about that is that it's also hard to commit fraud when you have lots of pictures coming from lots of sources and you don't know what the other pictures are going to be up there. It reduces the temptation to try and manipulate a photo.
I also wondered if you're going to plug in with other tools, you know, like
Yeah.
say Gibran, so you could voice annotate the thing or
Oh,
something.
well, you know, I'd be delighted to talk to Gibran because we tried that some years ago in my services company that performed all these functions for a very high fee that we are hoping to let the contractors do without that high fee, and the ambient noise killed us. The voice recognition but it's getting better. And there's also many construction softwares out there that are some financial based, some drawing based, all of which have APIs that we think we can latch into and make their products more powerful.
I don't have a question because you just answered it.
So I do hope Rob gets better soon, but you are delightful. I think you did a fantastic job. And I've been following Ghidra for years, and I really think you did a great job of showing the simplicity. The drop-down menus, I think, are really compelling. And I think that also part of the secret sauce is the searchability and the indexing of the data. You talked about having thousands of pictures, so make sure that you get that in there. And I just have to wonder, and I think kind of following on to Valette's question, if this might be extensible into other industries. Like if you can't,
absolutely it is.
right? Because I know how profitable the construction industry isn't. My brother and my stepdad are both recovering contractors, and that's a tough row to hoe. So I'd love to see you guys expanding into other verticals.
That thin margin in construction, and these guys often make 2 or 3% of the total cost. They work with a very thin margin. That's one of our selling points to them.
Okay.
As far as other markets, I think there's lots of opportunities. I wanted to stick with what I know.
Yeah. Nice work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, it's saved. Sorry about that.
Well, thanks, Karen. That was a great presentation. Thanks for stepping in at the last minute. And thanks for looking out for all the multi-thumbed people in the world. Now, up next, we have Measured Experience.
Nope, this actually is going to go this way. All right. Well, hi, my name is Derek Harn. I'm one of the co-founders with Measured Experience. Bonnie is my other co-partner, and he's actually right down there running the AV part of Measured Experience. Measured Experience is a platform for hotels, restaurants, spas, and retail to collect customer feedback on site. So how many people here have ever seen the receipts or maybe even participated in those surveys you see on the bottom of the receipts? They can be pretty long. Home Depot's kind of notorious for having a long, drawn-out process of giving feedback. And you know, you're supposed to, enter in your ID. You've got passwords. You have long URLs to go into, and it's just kind of a lengthy process. And then you also have, comment cards and the regular suggestion box, drop in the hat type of system. So really what we're trying to do is make that system a lot easier for people to get through and collect feedback right at the time that the experience happened. And so instead of actually trying to show you what that demo is up here on the screen, we're going to actually have you go ahead and participate and rate our demo here right now. So Bonu's going to, yes, we're just going to see how easy it is. So he's going to pass those around. If you can just pass them down and go ahead and rate the demo. So what I can tell you about here are some of the use cases and the reason we've developed the system. We really wanted to try and help the service industry kind of increase their Yelp reviews and try and increase their business. We've found that a 1-star increase in Yelp review results in 5 to 9% increase in revenue, which is pretty significant. So working with one of our beta customers, we set out to do just this. And what we've done, and this is actually one of our customers that we're actually working with to increase their Yelp reviews, is we encourage people to go ahead and leave some feedback. And at the end of that, we say, hey, thanks for the great feedback. If they've left us a positive review, we go ahead and flash up the Yelp logo on there and try and get them to leave us some more feedback on the website. So, So, one of the other places that we were working with is Roundtable Pizza, and they use our system to monitor their customers' feedback and help with on-site reviews. And I'm going to step back for a second because I'm sorry, I'm getting a little dizzy. Yeah, that'd be really great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay.
So this is while you're catching your breath, I'm taking over for a second. So judges use this pad, and they all voted, and I voted too. So we probably get some kind of result that the company gets into their database, and then we can guess that. Then we can guess that managers receive that feedback in some sort of database and they process it.
So thanks, Derek. Hopefully, I am sure he hasn't eaten from the morning. He usually sticks it out when he's busy. So anyway, so the other way they use this thing is to, this customer has actually 3 pizza restaurants in Tacoma area, and he is not there anytime, and he would like to know what's going on there, and he never gets comment cards filled in. So what he has done is, this helps him sitting at his home basically look at, hey, how is it going today? So one particular day there were like 6 or 7 bad feedbacks, and there's a way you can set up alerts to get text messages or emails. So he got within like half an hour 6 or 7 bad reviews, and he's like, wait, what's happening? It's wait time. So he had to send somebody else to take care of that, and he was able to fix that. So basically a remote monitoring system too. Can you forward that? So this one is actually airport, SeaTac Airport. I don't know if anybody have you seen that in last few months. What they are doing is pretty interesting. It's real world A/B testing really. So what they have done is, they wanted to find out if it was easy to people to go from place, take a train and go to North Satellite or South Satellite. They did a survey for like 2 weeks and found out whatever was the baseline, they did that, and then this is not really working out. So let me do slight changes. So they put up some temporary signs and temporary walls to block some action areas so that people don't deviate and just concentrate on the signs. So when they did that, they found that it increased their visibility of the or directions. Basically, people found where they have to go easily. So in that sense, they basically saved a lot of money to trying to figure out what it would be a better solution. They could try few different things before implementing a real solution. So with this kind of feedback, what we are finding out is that there are multiple scenarios, case studies, not just a restaurant feedback and stuff like that, but you can also do in different business solutions. So we're still focusing on that. So So of course, this is the graphs that we have in the back end, and you could see there's a lot going on here. So there are other graphs too. Can you forward? So there's no end to this actually. You can actually download the CSV file and slice it, dice it if you're interested in that, which actually Airport has done. We also have different formats. There's this handheld, there's a folio, there's a stand. So it's multiple formats. So we have so that it's conveniently placed. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you very much.
Well, you'll get bonus points because you're the first dongle-free presentation today, so that's cool. Don't worry about that. I'm curious to know, will that be apped out or something like that, so you could put it onto different devices, or because hardware is pretty expensive and time-consuming to manage? Can you move to touch kiosks if they're already in place at a facility?
Right. So to answer that question, just imagine you're sitting in a restaurant and you want to leave feedback, or two things. You want to leave feedback, one, and you don't want to. So when you want to leave feedback, look at it, where do I leave feedback? Go to Yelp. So open up your phone, slide to open it, go to the Yelp, find the restaurant, leave feedback. Is it possible? Nobody does it. There's actually a custom text messaging service in Seattle. Talk to the manager. They're my friends, so nobody tell them that I talked about them, okay? So if you want to leave feedback, open the phone, unlock it, type in the phone number, type in the text message. You won't do that unless you're really, really mad at them or something like that, So the point is, this is in your face. This is almost no interface, like one step. You walk in, and sometimes you don't want to leave feedback, but this prompts. So the restaurant we talked about initially has 1,000 per month feedback versus 10 comment cards per year. And in fact, we raised their Yelp feedback from 2.5 stars to 3 stars in 1 month. Because we prompt that and it's cues in to say, hey, go and leave something. So we don't want to actually do appetizers. We want to provide a custom full-size solution. What we also have found out that they don't have time. They're running a full business. They don't have time to buy a device, set it up, maintain it. We want to offer a turnkey full solution. Take it here. Even our sales rep will set it up for you, and that's it. You don't do anything. You just call us when you have a problem.
Thank you. I noticed as I was filling out the feedback that based on what stars I selected, it prompted me with different options. I was curious how dynamic that system is. If a bunch of people are waiting in line and they're saying long waits, is it going to kind of ask about the waits, or can it learn on the fly, so to speak?
No, not really. At this moment, it's once set up, it's that way. You can actually change your question if you want to on fly and change the options on fly, but it doesn't really is smart enough to do that.
Just wanted to give you guys kudos for great teamwork. Nice tag teaming there. It's really great to see entrepreneurs reacting on the fly. And just to kind of follow on here, I think it's great that you're removing the barriers to entry for people to participate, whether or not they have a good or bad experience. I think you find that when it's a good experience, 2 people will do a Yelp review, and when it's bad, you'll get 20. So I'd love to see that trend being democratized a little bit. But I guess kind of the question or concern I might have is around closing the feedback loop. So if I'm anonymously leaving feedback on a device to which I'm not connected, then I don't get a response from the manager. Then I don't get, any kind of satisfaction before I leave. You've effectively lost that future sale to the consumer who leaves unhappy. At least they've got an event, but there's no resolution to their problem.
Right. So if somebody is really if your customer is really mad or something, and if they leave their email address or there's a screen in the last that allows you to do free commenting and contact information. If so, they can. Actually, we saw people leaving that, and we have one customer actually calling them and saying, hey, you got a coupon, now come and take it or something like that. So fixed it.
Great. And then my comment was to a great tag teaming also, and think it's a great idea. So, on the consumer side, it's pretty clear you guys are really making that kind of an easier experience for us to give feedback. And I know you touched on a little bit kind of on the back end on the retailer side, how they're using this to then look at that feedback, those trends, that data. Down the line, how much of your emphasis or business model do you think will revolve around actually providing them with a platform to then analyze that data? Right. Or is it really just kind of on the front end application to the
No,
consumer?
no. I mean, in the back, actually, the front end is only customer facing. The back end is actually very robust, and you have multiple locations. You can have multiple placements within a location. Like in a retail store, you can have a countertop, near restrooms, near particular maybe women's section and men's section, or something like that. You can have multiple placements in the same retail location. So it is robust in the back end that way. However, we don't know exactly what industry is the best. So for us right now, we are trying a lot of different industries because it can apply anywhere there is a customer physically present in a location. And that's what we want to do. We want to bring that online service into real world.
And then how do you, is that something where it's an online platform and it's an annual subscription model, or is it like a one-time purchase the software type deal and then you guys service it, or
Right.
what's the?
So we went through different models of this and finally settled that, we're going to settle possibly that one subscription model per device per month, and that's it. No upfront contacts, no upfront payment, so that you cancel it, you take it. So we gone from anywhere from $30 to $90 based upon the establishment or the enterprise stuff. The least was $30 and the highest was $90, and it was also based upon the type of device. So we want to give one product, one pricing per month, and we also find out we wanted to see if we can sell this device upfront, and nobody wants to buy it upfront. So we have to rent it so it turns out to be more profitable, by the way. So because we are renting it every month forever, so it's better.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Great questions, judges.
All right. We're already down to already up ready for our last one. So let's bring up Chooks from Personify.
Hi, so I'm Chooks Oneme, and I'm the founder of Personify. Now, Personify is a social platform that connects communities around volunteering. Now, that's a story to this, but before I go into that story, I'd love to play a short video for you. I think one of the channels is out. Hi, so I think one of the channels was out. Sorry about that. So I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to this. So I'm new in Seattle. I came here about a year ago from Dallas. But prior to that, I came to the United States about 16 years ago as a kid from Nigeria. And when I got here, one of the first things I observed about this country was just how much people were so willing to give, especially philanthropic efforts. People were so willing to give money. But one of the things I found out though was, when people gave money, it was so easy. But people were trying to figure out how they could give their time to things, charitable causes around them, which was a very hard thing to do. When I was a kid going to college in Dallas at the time, and I'd turn on my TV and I'd see, help, people calling for help for, far away places out there in Africa to help kids and stuff. Same places I had come from. But, when I looked around my community in Dallas, I found so much need. And it was hard trying to figure out how to connect those needs to people in the community. After college, I worked at Nokia for about 8 years designing smartphones, which, took me around the world. And one of the things I discovered was, people were essentially searching for the same things. People would help if only they had they had the opportunity to do that. So I figured, why don't we use all of these awesome things that we've built, smartphones, technology, to connect people around the good things they can do around them and not necessarily look far away. And so I built, this smartphone called Personify. And what it is it connects you to people around you who share the same interest in doing good. So we tend to call ourselves a meetup for social good. It's an app that works on your mobile phone. And I'm just going to do a demo that shows you how it will work once it's out on the App Store. So we're still working on it, and it should be out about at this month. So I'm just going to walk around here. So I've logged in now. So I've logged in now, and essentially, I pulled up my location right here. And do you know, right here, within 30-mile radius of Seattle, there's over 900 things you can do right now to help. Now, for the purpose of this demo, I've shut them down to 200. So what people have asked us, where do we come from? Where does this data come from? So what we've done is we've actually partnered with the largest organization in the world that matches volunteer opportunities to community activities. And what we've done is we've built our social platform on top of that data. But Personify will extend that. Personify will be essentially a crowdsourced platform where anyone could ask for help. I mean, you could give help to someone next door to you who just needs, help cleaning up his neighborhood, right? Or you could actually just get people together instantly, on demand, whenever they've got time to come out and do stuff, right? So that's the purpose of Personify. We intend to make volunteering simple, social, and fun. So here's what the app will look like. These are all of the things right now you can do around. And anything tagged with a P, with their P icon, essentially are the crowdsourced ones. So they're not necessarily from formal volunteering organizations. They're just from people who are just out there needing help. So one of the things that we can do right here with the app is you'd be able to filter based on 30 categories. And so these are the 30 categories. So I'm sure all of you are looking at, how can you go through 900 different events, right? So you can filter based on the categories and decide to do which, select the ones you want to go participate in. So you can always obviously go into each of the events. You can put it on your to-do list, or you can just sign up right there. And then when this app is ready, one of the things you would see would be, you'd also see the people who are going. So like I said, remember, Meetup for Social Good. And then, when we do release this app, essentially you can have a to-do list. And the biggest selling point for our platform is it's going to be an incentivized platform that gives you rewards for doing good. So you do stuff, you earn points. Now those points are being sponsored by our partners. We're talking to a couple of partners right now. I can't mention the names, but there are huge partners in the Seattle area that would sponsor points for people doing good things in the community. So you earn points, you earn badges, you redeem those points for in-kind donations to charity or product discounts from these partners. Essentially, you can also create communities if you want to keep things, to a close group of friends, or you can search for communities. So version 1 of this platform will be out by the end of this month. It's going to be available on iOS, and Android will follow pretty soon. So that's Personify. Thanks.
Thanks, cool demo. You showed some events that were crowdsourced, and I noticed a couple of them that were up there seemed to be very personal, like, can you drive a van? Maybe you could take me. There was some wording around that. This is a terrible question, but how do you think you may be able to deal with things like there was that woman recently on Facebook who was asking for money for her kid who was never really sick, and false things like that.
Yeah.
How can you prevent that with your platform?
So one of the things that we studied, since we're going through this crowdsourced way. One of the recent events that we started was Airbnb. Right, so this happened recently, actually last year at Airbnb. And one of the ways they were able to solve that was to bring in sort of people who were posting their listings from trusted sources. So for instance, if you post that with Facebook, right, they have all your data. So you're not some anonymous person. So one of the things we've done here is everything is location-based, right? So right now, these activities happen today on Craigslist. People are posting things for help on Craigslist, but it's super hard to go find what to do. What we've done is basically reversed it and made it location-based. So if you're here right now and you saw someone posted something within, say, 5-mile radius, you know exactly where that person posted it. Once you check in, right, it's all public information, right? So unlike Craigslist, you don't go behind the scenes and sort of build out some place to meet with this person, right? Everyone knows where you're going. It's all location based, so there's no hidden agenda, if you may, right? So that's one of the ways that we've taken sort of lessons from Airbnb, and we're using location based as sort of a security, if you may.
I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about how you communicate with the people actually posting those help opportunities. If 20 people say they're going to show up, do they get a list of those people, contact information?
Yes. So basically, once you post something, you have an admin page on the app. You know exactly who is. So if you've used Eventbrite or like Meetup.com, it works pretty much exactly the same way. You sort of, know who's checked in to go. And you can actually communicate with those people. There's going to be there's a messaging system within the platform where you can reach out to those folks who are.
I guess the follow up to that was if you're pulling stuff from Volunteer Match, how are you able to go through their platform to contact them, or do they have to have a Personify account?
Yeah, so we actually have a formal partnership with Volunteer Match as of last month. So they've provided us access to their data. All of this stuff works directly with the API. So it's all formal partnerships.
I like the filtering system, so you could narrow it down. I also wonder if you have a reverse type filtering thing, so volunteers could look for opportunities. Say if you have a kid who wants to volunteer, or you have a group with like 40 people from a workplace that want to volunteer. Can you filter it the other direction as well?
Yeah. So the part I showed essentially was the social sort of user area. Behind the scenes, we have a business model behind this, and that will be essentially connecting now with enterprise, right? Businesses and companies and brands. We're talking with a couple right now who are super interested in our platform. So with that, they can actually have it as a customized version where they can use that to sort of manage their internal volunteering activities, or then connect that back to the bigger community. Or to the greater community where they do business.
So I think Valette's question was more on the security side of things. Mine is just more on how, right. How are you abusing the product? Right, exactly, for abusing the system. And I guess mine is just on the organizations that are posting these ads. How are you actually going about sourcing that data? Is that through like web crawlers of already posted things?
No. So like I said, we actually have a formal partnership with the largest source of this data.
Okay, all right, so that's feeding directly to you.
Everything feeds directly from
Okay,
our
sorry,
platform.
I missed that.
And so all of this stuff have been vetted, right? These are all 501c corporations, organizations. They've all been vetted and sort of. So we don't do that work. They've pretty much have all that stuff.
That's already done for you. Great.
So.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Chooks, I'm a huge fan. I love your story and, the desire to do some good here. And it's great that you've sort of solved that cold start problem by building on top of that platform. But it seems like, part of your magic is really in that real-time, hyper-local experience. And so I guess my question is around, your sort of national rollout strategy. If you're talking about real-time, location-based, then it does take on that hyper-local element. And, we've seen that movie before, like with Zarly, and I know that can be sort of tough to scale. So could you talk to us just a little bit about, understanding that platform, but the real-time location-based element? What are your thoughts? Are you going into major metropolitan areas? Like what are the rollout plans?
Yeah. So I actually have a very good anecdote to that. So I was in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago where I actually demoed this app at Launch Conference, and so I was out there and I actually had the map showing San Francisco, right? I had a lady coming from Minnesota, so St. Paul, Minnesota. And she was like, awesome app, but I don't live here. I live in Minnesota. So I zoomed the map up to Minnesota, and like immediately all this data came down from Volunteer Match. I mean, you know, I hadn't even tested it, right? It was kind of nice to know that, you know, these folks pretty much exist around the entire area. I didn't know that would happen. But, you know, our API talks directly to them. So, you know, she said, well, nice app. I don't live here. I live in Minnesota. And, you know, she's like, I'm like, where do you live? She, you know, gave me her address. I zoomed the map up there, and it just picked up all this, you know, hyperlocal stuff, right? So it was kind of awesome. We kind of have that head start because Volunteer Match, if you know anything about them, they're like, you know, they're going international as well. So, you know, kind of building on top of that platform sort of solves that problem for us. Now, what will happen when we actually get to the crowdsourced part of it is pretty much, you know, yet to be determined, really. I mean, you know, we're starting local in Seattle first, obviously, because, you know, we're here, and then just sort of roll out to major metropolitan areas.
Well, thank you. Good luck. All right. Thanks.
So now the time has come for the judges to deliberate. So while we do that, I'd like to invite all the speakers to come up to the front. We'll do some audience Q&A at the same time. So come on up, folks. And yeah, let's line up around here. Liana will direct you, but have
speakers. Yeah. Presenters, please line up. Present yourself now. Yeah, okay. Hannah and judges are leaving the room to elaborate on the presentations.
Sure.
And we have a chance to ask our smart questions that I hope everybody was writing quietly down on your sheets. So now it is a competition, left side of the audience versus the right side of the audience. But we have one team, so who is coming first? Question 1. Alex.
So for personify it, every smartphone's also got a camera. Can the camera be used somehow to work on this security or abuse problem?
Yes, actually. It was funny. Again, I'll give you an anecdote. So a couple of weeks ago, since I came to Seattle, one of the things I really loved about Seattle is the fact that I could walk around to anywhere I'm going. In Dallas, we drive everywhere. One of the times I was sort of walking back from an office in Salt Lake Union, I went underneath the Mercer Bridge, and I saw something essentially that I was really concerned about. It was about homelessness, right? And I took a picture with my phone, and in that instant, I was thinking, what if I can instantly get people, right? Motivated around this particular instance at this moment, right? And again, that comes back to what you just asked. Basically, you can use your camera essentially to take pictures and post it. Everything is geotagged, right? So if in that instant, you take a picture, you post it out there, and then you tag it around that particular problem, you can get people within the vicinity, right, to join in. Essentially, and start a conversation, at least in the minimum, right, about what do we do about this. So that's really where we want to take the platform to. Again, it's does it answer your question? Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Now.
This question is for the gentleman from Gibran. I'm just sort of curious, do you see your system sort of being able to be used for replacing predictive dialing sort of systems for calling campaigns? I mean, I know you mentioned you used a very relevant case study in the political sort of scenario, but I'm wondering about that as far as how that sort of thing is regulated. Is a voice message to an email regulated the same way? So that's sort of the first part, and then the second part actually was, I didn't catch how that voice file would be delivered to an email or text, and what's the format of that? Do you have to click it? How sort of passively active is that?
Okay, so I'll try to address those questions. First of all, Gibran as a replacement for robocalls is possible. We could probably do it a lot cheaper, but that's really not our market. We're targeting affinity groups where there's a relationship between you and the organization you want to be involved and engaged. It might be within a church organization, it might be between, maybe you're a volunteer with American Heart Association, or there's some affiliation that you have with the group. You want to be involved in these communications. It might be your boss sending you notes about things that are going on you want to hear. So the primary market is around affinity groups and business as opposed to as a marketing channel, for example. On the second part of the question with regard to emailed and text messaged gibbers, the way those come is on an email it appears as an attachment with a graphic. You click play. The actual sound file isn't on the attachment, so you're not downloading in your inbox all of this. You choose to play it. At that point in time, it will then play it essentially as an MP3 file off the website. If it's a text message, you get a little hyperlink, and when you click on it, it will play it again off the site. It'll stream it or otherwise play the MP3 file.
Good answer?
Yeah.
You're voting yes? Excellent. Okay, come on, right side. You're done? Only we had only 3 questions. That side won. Okay.
Well, wow, what a great night of demos and just great feedback on all of you. Alas, there can be only one, and tonight that one is Ghidra. Congratulations. So hopefully all of our speakers will stay around for some more one-on-one interaction, but thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you to our sponsors and to all of our volunteers for making this happen, and thank you to all our presenters for just putting forth such a great effort. I really appreciate it. We'll see you at the next one.